I spoke to the lovely Helen, who is a psychologist and a coach, and she works with people to help them find their compassion. We talked a lot about compassion, which obviously ties in beautifully to the whole message here at Tassie about self-love and self-care and looking after yourself to then help each other. And it was a really interesting conversation. We talked a lot about compassion. She gave us some really practical tips about how we can start looking at that, how we can quieten the inner critic and boost our inner self-compassion. We also spoke about the power of the colour pink, which is very, very interesting. Anyway, here's our chat. Enjoy. So thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So can you tell us a little bit about what you do and the work you do and the mission that you're on?
So I am a coaching psychologist. So that basically means I've got a background in psychology and then have professional qualifications in coaching as well. And I work also as a psychology lecturer as well. So I'm sort of in the world of psychology.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been on my own mission with myself first on really boosting my own wellness in the last 5-6 years. Again, probably, well, very much linked to being in the throes of parenthood and young children and realizing how far down the list I came in terms of looking after myself. And so I obviously have done a lot of work on me personally. And I found working on my thoughts, the words I use at myself, was one of the most profound ways of boosting my wellness and my self-image as such. So therefore, in the last 3 years, I have started working as a psychologist, offering that compassionate space for people to allow themselves to really think, who are they? Where are they at this point in their life, and provide them with the sort of, you could call it the scaffolding, the structure on how to move forward in terms of it could be anything really. I'm quite broad in who I work with, sure. But a lot of the time, fundamentally, we do work a lot on the inner critic, that negative self-talk, and then we move on to building self-compassion. So my mission really is to provide a compassionate space for people so that they start to experience compassion being given to them, and can also safely explore how to grow their own self-compassion.
That's so lovely. That's so wonderful. I think it's often the case, isn't it, that whatever mission we're on kind of stems from that personal experience, doesn't it? So it's really interesting to hear that. I'm really fascinated by this concept of compassion, or this word compassion, and there's lots of kind of similar phrases and similar kind of concepts around, aren't they? Self-love, self-worth, inner confidence, all that kind of stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about what does compassion mean to you when you use that word compassion?
Yeah.
You're using that in the context of like finding compassion for yourself. What does that mean to you, and how is it maybe similar and or different like those other elements, do you think? How does that play into the bigger kind of well-being picture?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting, isn't it, that we have a lot of these words that we use, but how we're using them, and do we all mean the same thing? So for me, compassion is acceptance of self, but compassion, if we think of it even broader, when it's compassion towards others, it's acceptance of the current situation with a kind-heartedness.
Okay, yeah, that's a really, really nice way to frame it, isn't it? Yeah, like accepting it with kindness, like, okay, this is how it is.
This is how it is. So even if we were, if we go really big and just think we're currently learning how to be more compassionate to our planet.
Yeah.
So it's about accepting this is the current state, but accepting it with the kind-heartedness. There's no point in us just sitting around blaming each other. There's no point of us taking the harsh critical view. We need to now move on to, with all our flaws, with the planet in the way it is, how can we show gentleness lovingness, kindness, constructively.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And it's funny when you can see it on that big scale, and you can see directly how that relates to like this world as well. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, looking at the planet, you could think, oh, it used to be so much better before, or how have we let it get to this is awful. And again, it's with yourself, isn't it? Like, especially thinking about that kind of motherhood thing, and you know, a lot of us are very critical of our kind of physical appearance. Oh, it used to be so much better before, how have we let it get to this? And it's like you can see directly those comparisons. That's a really nice
Yeah.
little way of looking at.
Yeah. So, you know, again,
Oh,
self-compassion, if you bring it right down to me, you, mothers, women, family, it's like I wholeheartedly accept myself with a kind heart, with a kind-heartedness. So I know I'm far from perfect. I've many flaws, but I accept, and I've learned, and even when I say that, I can feel that little bubble of excitement and celebration. I accept myself for who I am, you know, and to me, that's what compassion is, and accepting the person in front of you who's suffering as who they are, and still having the kind-heartedness with them.
oh, that's so powerful, isn't it? What do you see when you're working within your practices as the direct result of that? When people like embrace that compassion, what happens as a result?
Well, again, yes, it usually, obviously, you know, a very famous phrase in the world of coaching is the magic happens between sessions. So there kind of is initially that first, there's a bit of uncomfortableness. There's maybe a lack of trust in themselves and me and what I'm saying, and encouraging them, and they're creating ideas around. And then they kind of get a shift comes, and they come back and might say, do you know, I did put myself first or equal to, and how did it feel? It felt good. So you see this change. Ultimately, I see change, and I see change that is positive and self-affirming. It's kind of like they are now able, I feel like, again, energy wise, it kind of sits in the core, it sits in a strong part, you know, that actually I'm not going to do that now tonight, or yes, I will take some time out, just using very generic things.
Yeah.
And they say that their energy seems to shift from somewhere in here. So what I see is an inner strength being developed and grown in clients around that sort of, again, acceptance of self.
Yeah, that's so nice. Yeah, so okay, so it starts with acceptance, and then it really develops into a strength. And it's interesting, isn't it, how I often find that those things like compassion, self-acceptance, I talk about self-worth quite a lot because that's been my personal journey. But I think a lot of those concepts can be seen quite differently to everything else. Like that's a chunk, that's a thing in life, and then everything else happens separately. And my experience has been that once that's the kind of foundation that you're working with, that informs all of your decisions. Like once I discovered or uncovered my own self-worth, that then leads to kind of real life decisions being made slightly differently. So it has quite a kind of practical knock-on effect, which I think is really important as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So again, like as you say, that knock-on effect could be a shift in career. You know, even if it's not always about going for the next promotion or changing career, but it's changing the boundaries of your current career so that it's actually working better. It's also, you see people really engaging in relationships again, where once they were maybe a little bit withdrawn because of not knowing their boundaries or knowing where they were in that relationship. So they're the major things I see.
Yeah, that's so funny because both of the big things changed in my life was a relationship change and a career change. So it's like tick tick tick. Yes, but it's really interesting, isn't it? How did you come into kind of your working in psychology then? Because that's just like the most fascinating area to work in, isn't it? What drew you to that initially? I know it's kind of evolving and
well, again,
your bow, but how did that start?
I think it was my first degree. So I did actually go and do psychology as my first degree. I've always been quite fascinated by the human behavior. But ultimately, I think something that was said to me when I was sort of that teenage years, those sort of deciding them, nothing ever really shocks me, so, and I think being Irish Catholic, probably lots was meant to shock me, but it never did. So I think I always had this sort of slightly off to the left bit of like, well, everyone's going to just live their life the way they live their life view. So that sort of attracted me into psychology, because it was like, well, I'm not shocked by differences or abnormal behaviors or so I was like very sort of this, I think this is where I'm going to feel comfortable, this is where I feel like I belong. So I did do my degree in psychology, then did a few detours along the way in the 20s, came more back into teaching psychology and have loved that. And then trained as a coach quite a long time ago now, about 8-9 years ago, because I knew I wanted that more opportunity to work maybe one-to-one with people, small group. I've always embraced change. Again, that was something that, I was 17, leaving home, going to university, moved around a lot, changed jobs, travel. So change was something that, again, I probably had that slightly off to the left view of. I just saw it as inevitable, saw it as something that, why wouldn't I just embrace it? So I felt like coaching.
Intimidated by.
So I felt like coaching and offering people that sort of alternative way of framing change and growth was just right for me. So it's kind of been a long time coming. And luckily, because of my, extensive time psychology based teaching, I then could quite easily move into coaching, and I do neuro-linguistic programming as well as a practitioner. So and again, I just feel like it's just core to who I am in a way now.
Yeah, that's cool, isn't it? It's lovely when people have that very kind of strong thread, and although obviously you've gone through a lot of change, I always find it like my brothers the same. They've always had a very strong thread of like something that they've done throughout their life, like for career wise and stuff. And some people are just drawn into an area just like completely natural. That's really cool.
I did, obviously I detoured off on the way, as I said, but I feel like I just have been able to come, when you look at other people, and I always say that jealousy we always see as a negative, but sometimes it's a signal to you to say, oh yeah, that is your dream. And I remember having a few moments like that where I'd meet other women and they'd introduce themselves, and then it'd be like somewhere along the line that question comes up, what do you do? And then I'd be like, I want to do what they do. That's that, that kind of helped trigger me in a positive way to explore was other women's success or my success. It's that thing of seeing how far I could go.
That comes back to the compassion and the self-worth, doesn't it? Because if that is there, then you see those people and you go, oh well, I can do that as well. And if the self-worth and the self-confidence and the self-belief isn't there, you see those people and you think, I could never do that. I'm so
I could never, but I'm so jealous.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So thinking about then busy mums.
Yes.
Busy mums and that kind of compassion piece and that kind of self-care piece. What are some of the ways that you work with people to kind of find kind of practical ways to either start that journey of exploration into compassion or boost that journey, or what are tell us about some of the ways you work in kind of relation to that kind of busy modern mum life?
And the thing that I'm a strong believer is we don't have to carve more time out of the day that's already jam-packed. So it is about just being more in the moment of how you're being, which I'm sure you talk to your mums about. And I really believe in the power of the words. So it's catching yourself. The opposite of self-compassion is self-criticism. So again, it's tuning into that inner critic and that inner voice. We all have one. I still have one. You'd never really get rid of your inner critic. You just learn to tame it, turn the volume down more, shove it to the end of the road, all those tools. So the first thing I would say is start tuning into how you're speaking to yourself.
Just being aware, isn't it? Because it becomes so familiar if it's there all the time.
That's it. We don't even realize, those, when I start this journey with some women, they're not even actually aware of self-talk and how much we're chattering to ourselves all the time. So tuning in and acknowledging that there is a tendency in all of us, it's not a flaw or weakness in any one person, to have a negatively biased inner chatter. It's survival. We could talk about that for an hour. It's a survival mechanism.
Okay.
So it's just going, okay, there it is again, that inner voice it comes when I'm sitting on the floor playing with my child, or this isn't really a good activity, or I'm not developing this in them. So it's about, hold on a minute here. So it's catching yourself in the moment. And the first thing I think is quite powerful is saying to clients, I would say to them, would you talk out loud to a friend like you're talking to yourself? So it's quite a known phrase, but catching yourself and doing that, because everyone always goes, no,
absolutely not.
No.
Yeah.
But of course they think they deserve the negative talk.
Yeah.
And I say, but then you don't deserve it. And then that's when they start to go, oh yeah, okay.
That's quite a good way to kind of shift your perspective a little bit, isn't it? You go, oh, hang on, maybe that's not fair.
Yeah, so that's not fair. That's exactly it. So that's not fair of me to talk to myself like that. So that can be the first thing. Tune into the inner criticism. By tuning in, also start to say back some compassionate phrases. So again, a little thing to think about is, can you come up with a list of kind words for yourself? So it's the kindness, thinking of the words, and also how we say them. Again, if you were right now helping a friend out, you would probably be speaking very gently, very slowly, and there'd be a softness to the way. So your tone is part of your compassion. We know it.
Interesting. Yeah. So not even what you're saying, but how you're saying it.
So again, without adding any more, you could keep a thought diary, but let's be honest, we're all knackered by the end of the day. So it's more about tuning into yourself. And when you start tuning in and reminding yourself every day, today I'm going to start tuning in a little bit more to the negative critic, and so again, the intention is I'm going to give myself more compassion, and then just flipping it into gentle, soft, kind words. And after a while, everyone just starts to naturally do it and naturally believe it. Because at the start, they're a bit like, yeah, I've got this. So it is a process of persistence too.
Yeah.
So that would be so I think it's all well and good saying go off and do yoga and meditation, which are absolutely phenomenal for compassion. They are the bedrock of those practices is self-compassion, compassion. But if you're sitting there with your inner critic going, you should be at home doing this, you haven't done those Christmas cards yet, there's no lights on that tray. What is the point? It's about bringing it into your own way of talking to yourself.
Yes, and finding, like you were saying, finding those ways to make it just like part of your regular daily way of doing things, rather than adding another thing to the to-do list. Just making it part of your day anyway. And
again, I would say another easy thing to do is if you find that you just get distracted. So for the first couple of days, you've set yourself that you're going to do this, and then you find actually I haven't done it. Habit stack. So when you boil the kettle, use the trigger of boiling the kettle. And how's my thinking today? How's my self-talk? When you sit on the toilet, we all have to do that every day. Just go, okay, what's
there was something? Oh yes,
self-talk. So stack a check on your self-talk into something you do several times a day.
Yes, that's interesting. Yes, in order to kind of get going with it, if you're very busy or very forgetful, could you do things like set reminders on your phone, or leave post-its on something?
Definitely.
Just get yourself in that habit.
Definitely. I think definitely those cues are brilliant. We all need them for effective habit making. You need cues. So maybe there's one on the fridge door, there's one on your mirror in the morning when you're brushing your teeth, or you do put the reminder on your phone. And you can label your alarms now, can't you? I label my alarms, so you can label it, how's your self-talk?
That's cool.
So I would say start with self-talk. Then there's all these wearing pink. I don't know if the hair just happens to be pink, but pink is a color. Pink's a color associated with compassion, love, kindness, gentleness. So if you really have the intention of introducing this to your life more, maybe buy yourself a beautiful pink candle, a pink flower, and then you use that as a little. So you're looking around your room.
I was thinking you can't see because of the angle, but I'm on a pink chair.
Oh,
I've got I've got pink curtains.
Lovely.
There's like a few pink things in my office, but it's like you're at the wrong end
Yeah.
to see. But yeah,
So,
that's so nice. That's so
so
nice.
again, yeah, so people could, as you say, the post-it notes, but you could say, I'm going to treat myself to something nice, a pink mug,
Yeah.
anything, a pink
Pink
notepad,
post-it. Yeah.
pink post-its. And it's kind of like, then you've told yourself, again, this is all about programming the mind. I've told myself that this pink item is going to remind me to be self-compassionate, and then it just starts happening.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that's so nice. Oh, yeah. Well, check back in a week and my house will be like redecorated, pink Christmas tree up.
everyone's getting a pink gift this year.
Yeah, I have a 3-year-old daughter, so we've got lots of pink in this house. Pink hair. Yeah, so pink's not going to be hard to come by. That's so interesting, though. Is there something in that kind of color psychology that kind of suggests that already,
Well,
then, or is it just about that programming?
I think there is like research about how colors can affect mood. So we do know reds, blues, greens, yellows, and there is research about how pink can again trigger more gentle states in humans. So there is some in it. I'm not 100% sure how rigorous all that sort of research is, but there's definitely research into how colors will influence our state of being, and pink, they've linked to that.
That's so cool. I love
that.
So who do you work with, and if people are interested to come and find out a little bit more about you, where can they find you?
Well, I work with any grown-ups, really, grown-ups mainly. I do work with teenagers.
Okay.
Because of my educational background in teaching teenagers, I do offer coaching for teenagers, which is either on the emotional well-being and confidence level, or some just really want to nail sort of A-level revision and how to work their memory best. So that's one sort of thing I do. And then I do work, as I say, with grown-ups, and people can find me on Instagram too, just Helen Neary Coaching. And I've got Facebook. I'm quite I've got private Facebook group as well for grown-ups as well. So you'll find me there, just Helen Neary Coaching.
We'll link everything. Cool. So Helen, in terms of something to set me as a little challenge or a task or something to try, is it those things that we've discussed already, or is there something else you think would be a good idea? What am I gonna try and get back to you on?
I would encourage the coming up with this kind statements that you really do accept.
Yeah.
So a challenge around what is your ultimate compassionate statement for you. And it might take a couple of days to find that, but it could be, I'm moving forward every day. I'm learning new skills every day. This is hard. We need to acknowledge at times, this is really hard, and I'm giving it my best shot, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever it is people are dealing with. So come up with a compassionate statement that sits with you. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. And
yeah, so I think just keep it at that.
Come back to it.
And then, and if I don't know how you do it, but it'd be good if they would share it. Because once we share something, it makes it again more real, and it also shows our commitment to following through on it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I love that. I'm gonna take some time to think about it. Yeah, I definitely know I have a tendency with that kind of stuff. I've got to really keep in mind that it's gentle and it's compassionate and not like a mission statement, because I'm like, okay, this is the action, or I've got to just remember that it's a kind one. So I'm going to take some time to think about that, and then I'll probably share it on the Tassie Instagram page. That will be my putting it out there in the real world. And
and I think again, that's a brilliant way of thinking it. It's not a mission statement. It could be as simple as, I'm having a tough time right now, and I'm really proud of myself, which is kind of a gentle, compassionate kindness statement. Or I'm really pleased with how I'm showing love to myself today. It can be just those things that are very reaffirming.
Yeah. Perfect. Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, I'm looking forward to doing that and to spending some time thinking on that. That's great. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Is there any final thoughts or tips or?
I think I just know that this, just like working with your inner critic, can be really empowering and liberating for everyone. It's one thing to just tame it and shut it down, which I'd done for quite a while. And then once I started realizing that there was still an absence of self-love, there was still that absence, that growing your self-compassion can be such a joy. And then it's the thing that you're role modeling it. So I do think it's really worthy of some attention. In it, because once you're doing it, it just emanates from you, and that helps everyone you love and are around. So
yes, and that's the whole philosophy, isn't it? Find these ways to nourish yourself, look after yourself, and then you can nourish everyone around you as a consequence. It's like you said, it's so important to give it the attention. It's so easy, we all know, to get caught up, isn't it? Day to day rat race, doing this, school run, packed lunches, bit of telly, whatever. But yes, just giving it that attention to think, well, hang on a little bit, take a step back, bigger picture, and kind of set those foundations, and then that's gonna have a positive effect on everything else. So really good note to end on. Thank you so much. I really love this chat. Thanks for taking the time.
No, it's been great. It's been a pleasure.
And I'm going to go and I'm going to film, I'm going to kind of document me coming up with my compassionate phrase and kind of spending the next day or two. I'm probably going to put some post-its around my house, and then I'll pop it onto the end of the video so you can have a nosy and check in with how I got on.
Brilliant. Look forward to that.
Brilliant. Enjoy the rest of your week, Helen. Chat soon.
Take care. Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye.
So I started off by just brain dumping loads of ideas, just trying to do it like from the heart. What do I think is going to mean something to me? I'm enough. I'm doing enough. I'm worthy. I put down loads of different ideas and tried to whittle them into something. This is an idea that I've kind of laced in from Mel Robbins' High Five Habits, about giving yourself a high five. Boom. I thought that kind of laced into the compassion idea. I also left myself some post-it notes around the house and set alarms on my phone just to get into this habit of checking my self-talk. Thanks for watching. See you next time.